What's up? I'm just gonna assume that you've watched the first part. I'm just gonna hop right into it. But I decided I wanted freedom. And the way I wanted to achieve that freedom wasn't through the traditional get rich slow, work a job 40, 50, 60 years, and retire with next to nothing. The way I wanted freedom was through some kind of business, a scalable business, and not a business that I have to work in every single day, but a business that could go to work for me every day. So I started doing research, and the one business that I found really interested me more than anything else was real estate. And the reason I chose real estate is because day in and day out, I saw all these properties, right? Remember, I told you before, I used to drive up and down downtown Chicago and seeing these big apartment buildings, these big, huge homes, $1 million plus homes, and just imagining being able to own one of those for myself one day was a really big motivator. Another big thing for me was that my childhood home, I partially grew up in Bronzeville, Chicago, downtown, Southside Chicago. And now the area is booming. But when I lived there, the house we lived in, it was a mess. It was falling apart, right? We got to paint on the walls and stuff like that. So there was paint, crayon, markings all over everywhere. The basement, nobody ever went in the basement because we were afraid that there'd be something out there that snatch us up, right? It wasn't a very nice house, to be honest. I mean, we appreciated it. We loved it for everything that it provided for us. But when we moved out, somebody bought that house, completely gutted it, completely renovated it, and sold it for about 5 times what they bought it for. If this was happening in my backyard, and if there's people who are able to acquire, renovate, and sell these properties in the types of neighborhoods that I grew up in, I felt like I could do it too. And so I started getting these dreams, these goals, these visions of building a real estate empire, and not just doing 1, 2, 3, 4 homes, but a whole neighborhood, a whole community, a whole city. I don't know where it came from, but it just motivated me a lot. And this is around the time I created that video, You Need to Dream Bigger, because I really felt that. So when reading The Millionaire Fast Lane, there are some very key principles that are touched upon when it comes to starting a successful, scalable, long-term business that can get you rich fast. And the 5 commandments that he mentions in the book are: there needs to be a need for the product. There needs to be some kind of barrier to entry. There needs to be control over the product, means of distribution, just control in general. It needs to have some kind of way to scale it. And there needs to be some kind of time, basically some kind of time variable. So I'm looking at my notes here, so excuse me. But remember that a business only succeeds as long as there are paying customers. So when you start a business, the need is about meeting the needs of the customer. Your business needs to be about helping people, not chasing the money. Entry. When there's a low barrier of entry for a business, markets become very saturated. Saturated markets breed competition. Competition increases the supply, lowers the demand, reduces margins. So a highly competitive, highly saturated business and market will have a much higher chance of failing because the profit margin will be so low. If you don't understand this, that's fine. Go back, listen to it again, read the book, do what you gotta do. I'm just gonna speak the facts. Control. So a business will only survive if the founder of the business has control over it. So things like brand, customer acquisition, distribution channels, influence, cost structures, things like that. These are all key principles to a business. And if you have no control over any of those, then you're gonna have a tough time. Scale. So scale says that wealth acceleration is limited to the total pool of customers that you can reach. If you have 5 customers for your product, it's not to say that you can't get wealthy, but it'll be a lot more difficult than if you had 1,000. So being able to scale your business up and leverage tools like social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, leverage tools like, I hate to use the word network marketing, but network marketing, right? Referrals, people, utilizing an existing network is a really great way to scale your business up. So, time. So, any business that's attached to your time is a job. If working 10 hours in your business makes you $10 million, then you're working a job that pays you $1 million an hour salary. So make no mistake, unless your business is able to generate income without you actively, right, trading your time for money, then you don't have a business. You just have a high-paying job. And if you want a high-paying job, by all means, you can do that. But just know what you're signing yourself up for. And realize that in order to separate yourself from the business, you have to have systems and processes. So these are all key principles to a business, and they all apply to real estate, right? So going backwards over my notes again, the need for real estate. I mean, everyone needs a roof over their head. Everybody needs a place to live. It's foundational. Even people who decide to set up a tent next to the river, they still have a tent next to the river, right? Entry. How many people on the planet own real estate? How many people on the planet believe they can own real estate? A lot of people are not real estate owners or real estate investors because they believe they can't afford it, and because their mindset is one that they're not able to achieve it. Now, I know I'm about to offend a lot of people, but I truly believe that pretty much anyone can own real estate. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you're gonna get there overnight, but if you want it, you can get it. There's a lot of real estate out there. Scale. If you want to make more money in real estate, either buy more properties or buy higher income producing properties. You can own 50 single family homes, or you could own one 50-unit apartment building, right? Trade-off. And then time, you get paid rent every single month. If I own 100 buildings and they're occupied with tenants, I still get that money every single month, whether or not I work for it. So all these facts fit within the criteria. That combined with the fact that I do genuinely feel passionate about real estate. I mean, I could talk about real estate all day, all night. My friend will tell you, he gets sick hearing about me talk about real estate, right? So I knew what I wanted to do. The next question is, okay, what am I gonna do with that information? What am I gonna do with that knowledge, right? I own this condo. I'm sitting on it. It has equity in it, meaning if I sell the condo, I'll be walking away with a pretty chunk of cash. So I decided to sell it. My genius, big brain self, I'm like, I'm gonna sell the condo. I'm gonna use that money to buy an income producing 4-unit property. But here's the thing about real estate. When you buy real estate, most of the time you get a loan on it. And depending on the purchase price of the property and the interest rate of the loan, your monthly payment amount can fluctuate greatly. So when I went to go sell my condo was when interest rates were going from around 3% to around 7%. By the time I sold my condo, the amount of house that I could afford to buy pretty much went down by 50%. So I went from being able to afford to buy a house in my own neighborhood to now only being able to afford homes 40 minutes away. That was a problem because my job, my 9-to-5 job, was deemed essential and I had to be in the office 5 days a week. I was not willing to commute an hour and a half every single day just to own this property. So I panicked. My real estate agent who was helping me sell the house, she kept telling me throughout the process, oh yeah, it'll be fine. It's gonna be great. Don't worry about it. I got you. As we got closer and closer to closing day, she kept telling me, do you have anyone that you could stay with? You got any family? You got any friends? And I was like, you know, I really wish that she would have just been more upfront about the fact that I was in trouble so that I could have worked something out instead of me trying to do everything last minute, right? So problem number 2, all my friends and family lived far away from where I worked. I had an aunt who was willing to put me up, but she lived about an hour away from where I worked. That wasn't gonna work. My godmother, she lived about an hour away from where I worked. So I ended up reaching out to my friend's parents, and I literally crashed with my friend's parents who were about 25-minute drive away from my work. And I crashed at their place for about 2 months. I was in like a 150 square foot room. It was just a mattress, a closet, and an AC unit. And honestly, that was a blessing. I was living out of a storage locker and a couple suitcases, but I just woke up and went to work every day and did what I could, kept looking at properties to buy, but nothing really worked out for me. After about that 2-month period though, my friend's parents, as gracious as they were, it wasn't convenient for them to host me anymore, and I had to find a place to stay more long term. And this is when I found out from doing tons and tons of research that the YMCA used to be designed as an affordable housing provider. And if you're in dire straits, you can crash there for an undeterminate amount of time. So I went in there and I applied and I got approved, and I moved into a 150 square foot room in the YMCA on the 3rd floor. So here's the thing about living in the YMCA. There's quiet hours, which is fine. I'm okay with that. You get a free gym membership, which is great, except the gym closes at 6 p.m., which is not great. The other thing though, is that only one person can use the kitchen at a time, and you only have kitchen access from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Well, my work hours were 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I had no access to a kitchen the entire time I was living at the YMCA. That was difficult for me, because I was trying real hard to maintain, right, the hard work and the body and everything that I had built. So here's what my typical daily meal looked like. I wake up, and while getting ready for work, I get about 170 grams of fat-free Greek yogurt, and I mix in a scoop of protein powder. And then I throw some nuts on top. Walk to work while eating that, and I eat just that until lunchtime. Lunchtime, I walk to downtown and I get a Chipotle burrito bowl. Easy rice, double chicken with no sour cream, no cheese. Just salsa, lettuce, tomatoes, and then extra beans, right? That would be about like 500 something calories, right? And maybe like 60, 70 grams of protein. It was good stuff. Dinner, again, couldn't cook. So I went to Jewel Osco and I'd buy a rotisserie chicken maybe once every other day, and I'd eat about half the chicken along with a little baggie of salad greens. And that's pretty much what I was eating every single day. There'd be times where I'd go to Portillo's and get a sandwich, and sometimes there'd be like a sweet green. I got a free sample of sweet green, and I was like, why in my life would I ever pay $25 for a salad? But I don't know, I guess that was real popular for some reason. Point being though, I did my best to maintain my routine. I recorded about 3 videos while I was living at the YMCA. One of them was, what if you did it anyway? And I recorded that in my car because I had no means of setting up my camera. And I was embarrassed to show the fact that I was living in this white painted room with plaster everywhere, with this little banged up dresser jar and a little desk. Like, I had enough to survive, but that was about it, right? So I recorded all my videos in my car or completely outside where people couldn't guess what my environment was like. There was actually a time where my friends and I, we all met up at Indiana Dunes State Park, and they dropped me off outside of the YMCA. I didn't want anyone to come in and see the place, and they weren't allowed in anyway because the YMCA doesn't allow guests. So they literally had to use the bathroom, and I told them, I was like, nah, sorry, you can't come in. And they thought I was joking, and I was like, no, you literally cannot come in. They will kick you out. So after going and living at the YMCA for a while, I realized that I needed to get a remote job. I needed to have location independence because the only reason I was stuck in the situation I was in to begin with is because I needed to be able to commute to my job. So I started applying for jobs, right? More tech related, programmer, business analyst, anything I could find. And I ended up finding something. I got a job that was fully remote, negotiated fully remote. It paid more than my current job, and they wanted me to start immediately. So I just took it. Put in my 2 weeks at my old job, and I was out of there. Now, I told you that I wanted to do real estate as my business moving forward. So for the next video, I'm gonna explain to you what I was doing in real estate the entire time I was moving out, finding these places, trying to survive at the YMCA, applying for jobs, all this stuff. I'm always trying to juggle things. But you're gonna have to wait for the next one. But anyway, that's all I really got for you today. I appreciate the time you took, and until next time.